You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Battista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So, if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your, stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Chris Gillis and Dr. Emily. How dateable are you? The top 5 relationship mistakes successful women are making right now. Ladies, and if there's a gentleman, you welcome. Hi, we have Dr. Emily and Mr. Chris Gillis.
Hey.
Here. We're super excited. And also, Bachelor Nation super fan, Emily's mom, Sue, is also in the background, in the audience. Yay! In our studio audience. Woohoo! We're super happy. She raised her daughter right to be a Bachelor fan.
She told me once she had a nightmare that I went on The Bachelor.
It is a weird feeling, like the older my girls got, like realizing like these are the age of my children. And now these boys that are like getting roasted and they're the same age as my kids' friends. I'm like, they're young.
Yeah.
Like they're young to be getting like roasted like this. Like it's a lot for a human, but a young human. Okay. We have so much to talk about. So I was reading online, as I know you were too, and people were saying like, too bad the whole season wasn't as good as the finale.
Right.
Yes.
I also read, just for all of you listeners, that Reality Steve, I saw him speak last night. He has all the inside scoop. The taping was 15 hours.
No.
And they showed 80 minutes, including recap.
Wow. Yeah, they cut out so many people who we have questions about, who we wanted to see clear up their names, like the NCs and so many in the Andrew, quintuple 4 square thing going on. And they just left so many
They left so many things out. The twin, like there was just so many. So by the way, I think if you hold your phone sideways, maybe you can get both you and Dr. Emily.
Oh,
there you go. There you go. I love it. So I just really want everyone to know that whatever we saw was so super edited. And so in all of our insights, it's only based on what we know from piecing together things we've read online since and before, and from, very, very clear intentional editing. So before we talk about like the big news about Victoria and Johnny, I want to just get out of the way. I want to talk about Logan and Kate. So what I love about this conversation about Logan and Kate is, and for those of you who don't play along, Kate is like in her mid 30s and she's dating a 26-year-old and she is telling her friends, like, I want someone who can drive a certain car, who can, go to this gym, who's got more station in life, which, we talked about this in the last episode, like, have your non-negotiables and know what you're looking for, but don't date somebody who's not those things and then shit on them, right? Yeah. And then talk about them with your friends, make fun of them, because what we talked about last time was that it's leaking, like it's getting transmitted and it makes the other person feel bad and you're wasting time. And here's what I really want to talk about that Logan mentioned on the show last night is that she never, ever spoke to him directly about any of these concerns. And every time they had a conversation, she made it be about something else. And what Logan said was like, if you would have asked me any of these things, like we could have had an honest conversation. I could have told you like what I do, like my income, what my career goals are. At least Victoria, when she was dealing with Johnny, she like at least asked him directly. She never followed up, but at least she did that. So that's number one. And then I want you guys to also comment on, and this was kind of all over the internet. And I think Reality Steve and Dave Niels were talking about this yesterday too, which is, when you're looking for this one person that has these certain things, like make sure that you are clear in what you're looking for, that you're respectful to the other person, and that you treat the other person with respect, not only to them, but behind their back. So like talk about that whole thing.
I think that this is something you pointed out earlier about with the Kate. You're like, this is a ticking time bomb. Eventually her disdain and, is feeling unhappy for not having her boxes checked of what she wants. Eventually it's going to come back. You got to deal with it, right? Eventually. And I think also kind of what I mentioned to, and we talked about in the last episode, is it's foolish for us to think that, I'll just hold it in because they don't want to hurt the person. Because eventually you're going to come back with some vitriol or resentment or something, and you're just going to hurt the person. Not only, I think, I'm glad you pointed out, with Kate, which you astutely, you were noticing all these little unhappy flags that, but she was just going up playing along. But also, and I know even show she had quite a little heroic, female heroic, what's a hero? Heroine. Kind of God art. Shira with Shanae. Even in the end, though, she also, and she pointed out like how one of those twins, Justin or whatever the dude's name is, how he was too young, but then she kept shitting on him over and over again, kind of like Kate was doing. It was like almost like she was pissed off at herself. So instead of being angered herself, she quickly turned it on and came all the reasons why, which unfortunately he can't jump in a time machine and fast forward his age. So he's kind of, he was what he was.
Exactly. And so this is the other thing, like, this is why you have to have non-negotiables, right? Because one thing that they did say last night on the after show that Steve and Dave Niels did was, it's really important that you know what you're looking for. And that I think a lot of women make a huge mistake. They're only looking for what did you call it? The trifecta of sixes, like six figures, six pack, I don't know what the other six is.
6 foot tall.
6 foot tall, right?
Ding dang, big dang, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what Kate was saying. I think she's even, I think they bleeped it up, but it said that she wanted, a big and a body part and an even bigger bank account. Yeah. And I think that our listeners, I really, really want you to think about, like, what are the values you're looking for in a partner? And I think that when somebody, and I think Kate even says this, like, I've dated guys in the past that, like, I had to support them, or and then you are in a bunch of pain and regret about it. So you make this unilateral decision. I'm just going to, do the opposite because that's going to make me happy, or that's going to avoid certain problems. And so I think that this also just points with Shanae as well. Like, if you're looking for someone who lives in a certain place, has a certain amount of income, like drives a certain car, then just don't date people who don't meet that criteria, no matter how cute they are or tall they are or whatever the potential is. Because dating for potential is never going to work.
Right.
I really like what you said, Marni, a second ago about how use the word values. And I think oftentimes Emily and I just got back from a little crash course in Manhattan where where it's very fashionable they want all the eights. I mean, they want 8 figures, 8-pack. It's just on a hyper unachievable, level out there. But I was speaking with some gal pals there, and I wish I would have asked if some of those non-negotiables, if they can be sussed down to a value, because I think values are so much more so much more about a person than a number in a bank account, right? Oftentimes, or maybe it is, but just to get clear, is it the number in the bank account? Like, could they be a cheating piece of crap who who runs Ponzi schemes, something like that, but has 8 figures? Or do you want somebody who is a hard worker, who is frugal, whatever, is conscious with their money? What exactly is it? Is it a value or is it?
Go ahead, Emily.
Well, no, I was just going to agree because, I was part of those conversations in New York too. And I was like really confused. Like, I was like, what? You want what? Like, how many people out there meet these criteria in the first place? And then on top of that, you also want to be treated well too. Yeah. So it's, again, it's like you can have all of these, non-negotiables, but now your dating pool you're getting down to like 10 people. Like,
well, especially if you're successful and as a woman, you make a certain amount of money and you're like, he has to be more successful than me. I remember coaching someone. I'll never forget it. She's very successful, top of her field. And we were talking about, her values and her non-negotiables. And at first she was like, well, I want someone, she called it the highfalutin lifestyle. She was like, I want, someone with a highfalutin lifestyle. And then we started talking about her family vision. And she was like in her mid 30s and wanted to have a family. And she's like, well, I want a guy who's like going to be home for dinner. Like he could go to the soccer matches. He's not going to be on the conference call the whole time. And I was like, honey, like these are kind of two different people. And so what she got really clear though. And what she realized was I would rather still work and have a partner who works and combined, right, make the highfalutin lifestyle so that he can that he's there. Yeah. Right. And today they have like 3 kids and they have that family, but she had to get clear on that because if she would have gone for highfalutin lifestyle only, the likelihood that he would have been the kind of dad that she wanted for her. And it's not that and if you pick it, just know, like in my world, you get 5 non-negotiables. And so you can have financial security, you can have financial stability, you can have financial responsibility. Like there's a lot of options, but get really, really clear on what you want. And then the other thing, just if we talk about the show last night, like Kate was she didn't take responsibility. No. She was like, here's the worst. I didn't mean for you to hear. Yeah. I didn't mean for you to hear. Like, what?
No. So yeah, she posted something on Instagram that was like more sincere than that, but then immediately her posts following that were like jokey about like, oh, I'm like so terrible. So I'm like, you clearly don't give a shit. You don't care. Like you're just saying, oh, I'm sorry because your PR person told you to. But like I don't think she gives a single shit that she said all that stuff. Like,
she's attending the Zainab School of I'm sorry Instagram post, right? Where like I'm saying I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Yeah. So that was just really, really disappointing. And I think what's sad is that for me, like this is a strong, successful, independent woman who's also not finding the right guy because she's leaking, she's controlling, she's bitchy, she is judgmental. So it's like, she's like hi, Kate, call me. Like she's my ideal client, right? Because like on paper, she's an amazing catch and she's sabotaging herself all over the place. Okay. So we're going to save Victoria for last because we have to talk about, this was so good, Eliza and Rodney. So Eliza, which only got like 30 seconds, but it was so juicy. So basically, this is that situation where you have a guy, he's really into you, and you get the ick. You're like, I don't know, he's kind of too into me. Well, that guy's super cute. He's a little hard to get. Wait, I like you. Wait, no, I'm not into you. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the first guy. And the first guy on the show last night, Rodney was like, girlfriend, no. And you know what I loved about Rodney? He didn't even have to like make himself right or say, I told you so. He didn't say like, you should have thought about, that man was like dignity.com. Like he was like, you're a great person. I can see you're in a lot of pain. It's taken me a lot of time to heal. And I wish you the best of luck. He didn't throw her shade. That was amazing. What do you think about Rod and that whole thing that people do?
We pointed out, I love how you were like, well, these guys are young. And I think that I'm noticing the internet and all these people are like, holy crap, these dudes turned out so much. They seem to grow. I'll just say that they seem to grow and learn from their mistakes so much better than a lot of the gals. Everyone showed up at about their age appropriateness level of maturity, but I was really impressed at the takeaways, the lessons that these men learned, and they were and I'm like, they were such big people. And Rodney showed extreme vulnerability. I don't know if you caught it, but not easy for a guy to say, especially on national television. He said he felt really hurt or destroyed or something along those lines, and he was hurt. He owned it. He wasn't, you are a bad person. You are at fault. You hurt me, which he did make those mistakes. He just owned, he said his feelings and he let her know. He was honest with what happened just so she could know, but it was just so factual and beautiful. And he just held it and contained it within himself. And I thought as a man, I was like, wow, that takes some big nuts to be able to do that. Especially with a woman. I clearly, that he still has feelings, which I like also, like I love about him. I know he cared about her, and it would have been so easy just to say, yes, I'll take it back. How many we've all done that, right, Marnie? We're like, some guy treats us like crap.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like Jacob and Jill, right? Like Jacob's like, just kidding. Sorry,
Jump up. And she did. Yeah. And Rodney didn't do that. So I love that as well.
Yeah. I feel like Eliza's like my perfect client because she's like people pleasing. Yeah. herself
Yes.
into being, and it's like, oh God, I love this example because it's truly the perfect example of how people pleasing is. It's not, if your goal is to make other people happy, this is the perfect example of how it doesn't work. It's like such a paradox, right? She's trying so hard to make everybody else happy that she ends up hurting two people, three people,
herself in the end. Yeah.
Herself too, exactly. And kind of looking like a little bit of a villain, like, and it's just so, and I'm sure that in her mind, I don't think at all that she was thinking like, oh, I need to make sure that I get the perfect guy. Like, I genuinely think she was like, I have two good guys and I don't want to hurt either of them. So I'm going to do this, but then that made me sad. So now I'm going to try to do this other thing, but then that also made me sad. And now neither of them want me. And it's like such a perfect example of when you need to just slow down. You know what? I think if she had more, like a little bit more assertiveness to her, I guarantee she could have gone to Jesse Palmer in that rose ceremony and said, Jesse, I'm not ready to choose between. I'm sorry. I know that's going to put both of them in a little bit of a more uncomfortable position for another day or two, but I'm not ready to make this choice right now. And I get, they do that all the time where they're just like, yeah, sure, whatever.
They totally do that. Yes.
Oh no, I have to follow the rules. I have to do what everybody's telling me to do. I have to do this. Everybody wants me to choose Rodney. And like, look at the mess it got her into. And it's just such a perfect example of how if your motives and you're trying so hard to make everybody happy, you are actually going to hurt other people. And yes, Chris, you're going to hurt yourself too.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting too is this idea that she can't emotionally regulate herself, right? So and so this is a really, I think for our listeners, like when you can't emotionally regulate yourself, your like emotional child, like your adult executive functioning part of your brain is not there. And she's emotionally reactive, right? She's like crying. She's trying to consensus build and ask other people. And when you do that, like you're not only not listening to yourself, you can't calm yourself down enough to listen to yourself. And that's why it's really important to find ways to self-soothe, to self-regulate your nervous system so that you can even hear your gut or ask Jesse Palmer for something. And to the extent that it wasn't even one moment, because we all have moments, right? But it was like that night, overnight, the next morning, right? The next day, right? And you know, I think that I really, really hope that she just takes a nice big dating fast and works on her own self-worth and ability to listen to herself and meet her own needs. And I think hopefully it's a great learning opportunity for her. And I think Rodney should just stay off of TV and go find a nice woman.
Yeah.
Although we said that about Greg Grippo. Look where that got us.
Hold on, Marnie, on that same little segue from there. Also, I want to give kudos to Justin for having, at first we're like, whoa, that's interesting. Remember, she showed up in her, what's that little white, cute little corset thing that she shows up at the door?
Oh, yeah.
She gave patented, weird, crazy eyebrow faces. So kudos for him, though, for having the emotional intelligence to realize, wait a second, this gal just ditched my best friend, was willing to almost like, it's kind of was like, you don't want to marry the person who will cheat on their husband with you, because then she'll cheat on you with him. And he almost read that play. And he was right to sit there in the audience, because she flew all the way, said, hey, I made a mistake, I should have chosen Rodney, and then fast forward to the rose ceremony, she was actually, I made a mistake by not choosing you, and then I made a mistake by choosing him, and then I made a mistake by not choosing you, kind of going back.
She did say that, didn't she? At the finale, she was like, I made a mistake, I should have chosen Rodney. No. You would just choose anyone who likes you.
That's the sad part.
Okay. We also have to talk about Tyler and Brittany. This is what's interesting. Brittany and Victoria, and again, we're going to talk about Victoria in a minute, but Brittany seemed very chill during the show, like pretty even keeled, no drama. She breaks up, I think, with Andrew, and it's like mutual, no vibe, like good, good direct conversation. On the show last night, Brittany went full on Ice Queen, a la like Rachel Recchia finale, like, crazy, like, as did Victoria. But like, so what about that? Like, why does she think that in order to be separate or to break up, she has to make the other person like massively wrong? And we don't know much because there's 14 hours on the cutting room floor, but it seems like she needed a little space, and Tyler like texted her and DM'd her and Snapchatted her. And then she's like, clearly we're not a match. Like, I'm breaking up with you. What is that about, Emily? Like, is that like, Dr. Emily, tell us, psychoanalyze these people.
I think actually Chris called this like early in the show that this was like an anxious avoidant trap and Brittany, I think, was not her normal avoidant self on the show, probably just because of the context. You're like trapped on a beach with everybody. You can't like just run off and go do whatever. And Tyler seems very like, I don't know, he might come across as needy, I think. And I think as soon as they got in the real world, they just like both went into their normal styles. And Brittany,
she pulled away, right? Yeah, she pulled away. He
went to London, she Rome, and he's like, hey, probably like, where are you? Like, what are you doing? And she's like, you're trying to tie me down. You're trying to like, you're clinging on to me too much. I need a break. And then he's like, no, don't, like trying to pull her back.
Are you okay? Apparently he was just like, are you okay? Like, how are you doing?
It sounds like the most classic, anxious versus avoidant kind of spiral. It sounds like that happened immediately.
She was like we said she was like dressed for his funeral when her like mean girl, crazy thigh high black stockings. It was very and you know what? And it's sad because for the gals out there, it's just interesting because Marni, you were going crazy over him. Emily, everybody.
I love Tyler.
Hell yeah, you're like, I want a guy who just kisses me and covers me, and wants to see how the hell I'm doing. And when you're in Europe and all these things, or you're check on me when I'm not feeling well. But for some reason or another, that doesn't match her current dating style. And I think that it was I was getting images of that Pepe Le Pew thing where she's leaning back and back. I think that's why she was so goddamn cold in her move, because he kept wanting to like lean forward till she's just doing the Matrix, trying to get away from him to avoid his kisses. And she did show up so incredibly cold and distant, and she was physically there, but she was mentally, emotionally, she didn't give him anything to and have a conversation.
It was sad. I mean, I did a TikTok on, is it the ick or is it me? And that's what it feels like, is that she was really into this guy and then suddenly he just gave her the ick. And I agree with Dr. Emily in that, like, because what I said in this TikTok is like, is it that you're just not used to actually having someone consistently be into you? Like, do you not know how to healthfully set boundaries? So you can't train him how to give you space and what you need in a way that is not like with the Heisman, like, and that's what it seems like she was doing. And if that's what happens, like where you like someone and you're not sure, and then you get them and then they start treating you well, or they're really interested, they start to be vulnerable, they start to lean in, and you get the ick, like, look at that, because you're only then going to attract guys who treat you like crap, and that's what you're going to feel comfortable with, but that's not long term. Chris, what were you going to say?
I think that's great that you said something that is very important to notice, is that people men, I won't say necessarily women, but men are trainable. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine I'd much rather start off with a person who checks in on me too much than a person who's completely checked out. And that seems a lot easier to check on them, say, hey, to train them, say, hey, babe, I really appreciate it, but when I'm out with my girls or whatever, if you can just give me, 4 hours to miss you and to get a little buzzy and then to come home with you and all these things. Versus a guy who, takes off for 4 days to Vegas and you can't get him to check in on you or, anything at all. So I do think that for the gals who are out there who date those guys, and I know it seems to be very in vogue right now to label guys with the ick. And it's just a shame, because these are sweethearts. These are good dudes. these are dudes who listen to their mom, you know, and then when they're crying, say, oh, you guys don't check. And they're like, I want to be that guy. I want to be okay. I'm going to be a good guy. I'm going to be a good guy. And so they tried, and they're very much into checking in on, they're in touch with their feelings and expressing them.
Yes.
Versus trying to beat it out of a man, which is a lot harder. So I think it's a good problem that can be worked on with communication and boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. I was going to say, yeah, if you're more on the Tyler side of things too, like if you're the one who's, you know, trying and chasing and can't get the time of day, and, you know, your guy's going to Rome or whatever, like, I think, yeah, there's definitely a chance, I would say, like early on, before like a pattern has been set, to, like Chris is saying, like really just communicate. This is what I need. You know, I'm not asking you to be by my side 24/7. I'm asking for a text a couple times a day. I'm asking for a phone call at the end of the day. Like, you can talk about these things and make it, you know, negotiate and make it reasonable, and say like, oh yeah, I'm somebody, maybe your guy's just somebody who doesn't like look at their phone a lot. Okay, can you just set an alarm, practice like kind of checking in. Again, not talking about like once every 30 minutes. We're talking about like once a day.
And not controlling them. You know, you're not controlling them, just giving them an opportunity to love you and communicate with you in the way that works for you. And that can be as simple as a 2-minute FaceTime or whatever before bed, wherever they're at. But you don't get on a goddamn plane and then avoid them.
And I think
his mom sent her something, which was like, that's like, okay.
I don't know about that, but I think the thing is too, is that a lot of this comes down to, that means like the person, right, who feels overwhelmed isn't good at setting boundaries. They're so uncomfortable with like saying like, my needs are okay. And it's okay to ask. And I don't know how to ask. And I've seen a lot of relationships end because the person just avoided, right, the thing, and just push the person away. So I think that if someone gives you the ick, you have an opportunity to really look at, it might be you if you're not used to receiving, and then you at least need to really look at what is it. I mean, it could be like, I was talking on the TikTok about, some people be like, oh God, we had a date and he wore these shoes, and I was just like, it gave me the ick, you know, or, you know, he did this weird thing with his hands, you know, and it's like,
it's like the new cooties, Marni. It's so, it's such a easy write-off.
It is. And it's like, so it goes back to like, what are your non-negotiables? What can you communicate about? What can you ask to get your needs met? Like, there's lots of things to do. So if you have a pattern, an ick pattern, life check your damn self. Okay. So we've talked about, oh my God, the ick. Okay. So let's talk about, before we have to talk about flipping. Well, Danielle and Michael A. I mean, that was an easy one. The thing I would take away from that is, the slower you go, the faster you get there. You know, what I like about that is, like, when Danielle and Michael A had that first date and they were trauma bonding, I was like, ruh-roh. But what is great about this was they were sort of forced to keep going on dates. Like, in real life, someone would be like, oh my God, that guy's totally not one of his ex-wife or his kid. Like, I'm out, right? But like, there's nobody else. Their mom and dad. There's no one else age appropriate. They want to stay on the beach. They want to get followers, whatever the hell their motivation is. But she has to keep going on a date with him and keep getting to know him and find out, is he really emotionally available? Is he capable? Asking him questions. She's clearly emotionally intelligent from what I can see. It's kind of nice, right? Because they went really, really slowly because of time. And then they decide like, hey, we're not going to get engaged. We need to like, you know, meet the son. And now she's like going to move there. It's like 5 or 6 months later. And now the long distance relationship is progressing. We're not going to live together. And I often think like, that's why it's so important to continue to go out on dates with someone. If there's some pink flags or you're like, I don't know. Right. And take it slow and like, let's see what evolves. What do you guys think about them?
I agree. Yeah. Michael he scares me all the time. He's always just saying stuff like, when they were agreeing, like, yeah, we're going to keep dating after the show. He said, oh yeah, I want you to meet James when the time is right. And Chris and I were both like, oh no, he's not going to let her meet his kid. Like, I was convinced that they were going to like break up because he wouldn't he still wasn't ready to take that step. So I was so relieved when they came on and she was like, oh yeah, I hang out with James all the time. Like, it's so good, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. He really does seem to be like opening up and like, I don't know if he's ready, but he seems like he's trying and he's really making the effort. And that's good because I think historically he sees any kind of pink flag and he's like the door
and he runs. Yeah, I think the other thing that's really cool is that the mommy part of me was like, you know what, this kid is like, he's a kid and it's been like however many years and Danielle's cool and he wants affection and she's obviously like she's got like nurtured vibes, you know what I mean, like she just has like a very warm sweet affect. And so him probably like, well, wait, my kid is seeing this because that's probably also his fear is like, if I bring someone else, does that mean my son's going to forget mom or think I don't? So, you know, I think for a really real situation that thank God it didn't get like a lot of drama, you know, and there was no tea that was like uncovered about Michael A. or Danielle, you know, like it just stayed PG, like, hopefully they go off into the sunset and that kid James like can watch his dad and maybe his stepmom on TV like 20 years ago and be like, that's cute. And that just made me happy. It was just nice, appropriate, respectful.
Okay. A couple of things. This was super fan Sue was listening. It was outside in the other room. Her and I, I wonder that once, and Emily said it a second ago, she kind of paused when she said, you know, if or when Michael is through processing his trauma and really able to date on his own and not for a nurse figure because that's what she is, right? And she is, and to comfort and care for him and make him feel better. My unfortunate prediction is that they're going to get to a point where he feels all better. She's going to nurse him back to emotional health, or he'll do, you know, Hoffman process or something like that. He's going to take a deep breath and go, oh, wow. Okay. Now I'm ready. That part of me is healed. And
that could be,
and
that could
because
be.
Like, it could be Marni. And also I know would you say when the slower you get there, the faster you arrive or whatever, but Marni, you moved to Akron, Ohio for a dude who hasn't even said he loves you yet. That's a big ass. That guy's molasses slow.
Yeah, I think so. I think you do. I've had a handful of clients who the guy just said like, I want to be able to say I love you back, or I want to be able to say I love you and I just really feel it. And I love the way this is going. And I feel like I'm so close, or I'm there, or, you know, like I'm getting there. And then almost like the woman being like, okay, like, you know, they're like, oh, wait. Okay, wait, you know, and then like a week or two later, they're like, I love you, you know? So I think you need to look at it collectively. Like, what are the other signs? Is it progressing? Are this person acting like they love me? Right. And so that's my thought, Chris.
That's what I want. I love you. Just kind of stole my thought. I was going to say, we have a friend, a mutual friend. Speaking of Hoffman process, he's a life coach, and he never says, he's been with a woman for 13 years and he never says, I love you to her. And I go, really? And he's kind of proud of it. And he says, because he and his woman, they believe that love is a verb. It's not something that is said. It's something that you do. And so they constantly look for ways to show each other that they love each other because they feel that's the easy way. That's the easy
Me and Emily are like, okay. I mean, whatever works for you.
But yeah, he says it actually caused him to be more mindful to show her constantly. I don't know what they do if they have some code word, but how do you say thank you or I love you when they do all these constant little things? To really give them that platinum rule and love them the way that they want to be loved. So that's what I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, Marni, because I think that I wouldn't expect someone to move to Akron, Ohio for me without saying it.
I don't know. I don't think it should be conditional. I think if it's building and it's growing and you want to actually see if you have a good relationship and she has other professional opportunities and she wants to build a connection with the son, it's like, well, there's got to be other reasons. See, I think there's probably more. Once this Victoria stuff like goes away, like we'll probably get to like the details of everyone else's story. Yeah. It's just that right now it would like Victoria and Johnny are the star and like there's no other story. But we do have to talk about Chris Gillis Can you please tell me your fanboy crush on Aaron is over after the truth has come out?
It burns, the flame burns brighter than ever.
Really? That he's dating two women? Okay. So for those of you who don't know, prior.
Yeah, not with that context.
Not with that.
But I thought he did it.
That's what I'm saying.
His apology.
No, but listen, Emily. Okay, so listen. Now we're going to the tea part. So apparently, for those of you who don't know, so prior to Paradise, Aaron was dating two women. He told them both that the other person was just friends. He was sleeping with both of them. He told both of them that he loved them. One of them, she was like, yeah, it's okay. Go on Paradise. You know, like we're not in a relationship yet. So there was like all these different scenarios. He goes on Paradise clearly just to get followers and fans, because the whole thing, obviously, with Genevieve from that lens is completely fake. Even the breakup on the Monday Night Show was like, oh gosh, gee, sorry, I guess we're not, it was like so fake as fuck. The freaking news about this broke 5 days or 4 days after the reunion show was taped. The reason why that apology was all like, hey, let's shake and be friends is because Genevieve didn't know that Aaron was basically in a relationship. And at the time of the reunion, he was actually back dating. He's in a relationship with one of those women.
Wow.
He is an F boy, and he's
No, I definitely thought, okay, so the breakup
doing chunks.
Was absolutely, once he broke up with her, the way that he broke up with her, which was very matter of fact, not emotional, not sad, just, oh, you're a great girl. We just don't get along, whatever.
You take off.
That was when I said, okay, he doesn't care. Like, I was like, he's not in this for a relationship. He doesn't care, because the literal night before, like not even 24 hours before, he gave her a rose and did this nice speech about how, like, oh, despite our ups and downs, like, you're still the one I want to be with, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, well, what changed in the past 18 hours? Nothing. You just gave her the rose in the speech so you could keep going on the show. Now that the show is over, you're like, all right, we're going to pack this up. We're going to put it away. And it makes sense that he has a girl, or actually two girls back home that he can just run off to. And that's why he's not sad or heartbroken or anything. That makes perfect sense. I will say, if you could somehow artificially remove the other people he was dating part, if that was not in existence, then I would say he did have a nice apology, as did Genevieve. I thought they were the most respectful, the most sincere. Yeah, just I thought they both did like a really great job apologizing and owning up and stopped blaming the other person.
Yes.
And really impactful for her. She started crying once he said, like, he was like, I don't even need you to apologize. He was like, you're right. I was a dick. I was foolish. I was prideful. And she, like, you could see her like physically relax and like release that, she was like, okay, thank God. Like, I'm not just crazy. He was being okay. And so I thought it was a really nice moment. It sucks that there's other stuff going on.
Okay. So I'll play devil's advocate, because of what Chris Gillis taught me on a previous episode, which you may or may not have heard, which is that motherfucker will just say whatever he needs to say to get out of the situation. And he's like, yes, it's your fault. It's my fault. Yes, I'm sorry. I was bad. Right. He just wants the la, 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 la. He just wants it to stop. And so I don't know if it was sincere. I just think he's like, I got 2 minutes. I don't want to be a dick. I don't want to get the hate stuff on Twitter. I'm going to just fall on the sword. I'm going to apologize. I just want to get out here. And in the end, he got it anyway.
This is why I love hate. This is why I love Aaron Clancy, and I loved Genevieve. They were my favorite couples on the show, because I think that they mirror the most of how we speak uncensored and how we blurt out things and we get lost in our emotions. And then we have the ability.
I agree.
We want to storm away, and then we cry, and then we scream at each other. We love each other, you idiot. And we name call, and we do all these dumb things. And then whether or not, and then they both seem to learn, and they go back to their friends. And it's just such real little microcosms of all this chaos that is the ups and down roller coaster of a relationship versus being this I don't know, very measured, careful, way that some of these guys are like kind of shut down. Like the Johnnies are just like, baby, it's like a robot that's barely turned on emotionally. Whereas I felt like it was an exciting, fun, a little romance on the beach that they had. I do agree with you that, I think he was there for, it was a fast little fun experiment that he did it in there. But I heard it differently. It's interesting. Maybe it's because, we have different colored lenses when we listen to it. But what I thought was, I thought it was big of him, but it's beautiful. And what's also annoying is just like people, he knows what to do. And what's entertaining is that he will then again, given another chance, he'll fuck it all up again. And then he'll end up saying an apology, gets a little bit better most of the time. And then he continues to trip up, owns it, but he's very honest and authentic. And I think he has a good heart. I'm not sure. I did all. So, you think we're going to see him again? I hope so.
I would even
I don't know
this. I think the fact I almost, okay, this is going to be
a
hot take. I don't actually care what his motivations were. The fact that he apologized the way that he did and said that he said the exact right things. I don't care if it was, I just don't want to be hated. I want to get, for me, I'm like, your behaviors, what you portray to the world with the words that you speak and the actions that you do, that's all that matters. So I don't care what's going on. I don't care what his thoughts are, his emotions are. The fact that he did it, he made Genevieve feel better.
For now,
feel better. He owned up. He really demonstrated like, this is how you own up your mistakes. This is how you take responsibility.
I totally agree. I agree. I think he was coached really well. And I'm sure there's some part of him that felt that sincerity. But I do think, Chris, you're right. Like, that is your very average, unhealthy relationship. Right. And Genevieve saying like, I refuse to be talked to like that. I never, and then 20 minutes later, you're like back in your lover's arms. So I think there's a lot to learn from those kids. Okay. So now finally we have to talk about the Ice Queen, Victoria and Johnny. I think so. Nick Viall said that Johnny played the sad little boy card, and I disagree completely. I think that kid was on The Bachelorette, like so, like a player, like Chris Gillis, circa like 20 like 14 or something. Like
golden era.
Yeah, exactly. The golden era, the days of Steve-O, right? And then he walks on that show and he's like he said, so like gets punched in the face by this woman. And all of a sudden he's like, wow, and I think he really honestly, like he showed his insecurity. And I think what's really a first hot take for me on that is, and we see this all the time, but we have to say it. The illusion is for most people who are, out there is that the pretty people are confident and like everyone loves them. And, those really hot guys, like they could have anyone they want and they're so confident. And to see this really pretty young man, very handsome, be like, when I look in the mirror, I don't like myself. I don't think I'm good enough. I'm afraid. I mean, this guy is, for one, not ready to have a relationship. And number two, like, wow, he opens his heart. He says all that stuff, which, by the way, in the Manimal Kingdom, which you can find on datingwithdignity.com, he is not man-volved. Just, he's like the crybaby. He's the like, oh, like, here's who I am, like, I'm not good enough for you. But for some women, that's a real turn on, right? Like, let me fix you. And that's sort of why I think like Victoria was like, oh, babe, like she was all about that. And then like they get off the beach and I don't know what the hell went down. But one thing that I just have to say was what was edited out, just for context, apparently, was when Victoria said, you called me the C word and all of those things. Apparently she like threw a glass of wine at him, right? So we don't see the whole thing that went down.
Said, I'm out of your league.
Yes.
such a straight shot to his insecurity that he revealed to her. Like, that's where I was just like, oh no, that's like genuinely she hurt him the worst way possible and threw a wine glass at him. Like, that's
Savage.
Really intense.
Yeah. They're both bad actions, but I can see why that caused him to say a mean word when he revealed that giant tender open wound and she just freaking stabbed it and then threw a wine glass into it. Like, ouch on there. Also,
go ahead.
Also, Marni, gals, you have so much power. These guys, you see it with Logan, and then you saw it with Johnny, who's came in there as like, I'm just out here to have fun, bro, and just chill with my boys and do nothing. And how in the end the guy was, and Logan as well. I mean, and Johnny in the end, he was ready to, walk through he wasn't qualified to get engaged, but he was, these men would go through this fiery brick wall for these women when that's how powerful I think love can be. And when you show up is what they, he motivated him and it made him want to be, and he said it over and over again. It's like, I don't know what it is, but I want to be that guy. And it was just so freaking tragic because they got in there, they're afraid of heights. They got in there in the airplane and they jumped out and there's fucking no parachute and they're all by themselves and the girl lands safely back. Like, oh no. And
it was so sad. So did you, we don't know. Do you know for sure if like she was texting Greg Grippa, like the minute like they got back, like it says they were in therapy. They'd gone to like 3 therapy sessions or something like that. And she was already texting him. So do you guys have any tea on that from the Reddit?
I mean, not specifically. I think, the dates are all blurred, but it does seem like there was probably a bit of an overlap. And for me, just the fact, as soon as like Greg came out, and he even said, Greg kind of like told on her too. He was like, oh yeah, a few weeks after she got back from Paradise, we rekindled something. It's like, all right, so you guys were talking before the show. You came back. Johnny had his insecurities, I'm sure, like really came to the surface because now you're in the real world. People are hitting on your girl constantly. You don't feel good enough. And I think Johnny seems to be the type who really like withdraws when he's upset.
Yes.
Victoria likes the drama. She likes to be chased. So she's like throwing a wine glass, like, why aren't you chasing me? I'm out of your league. Like, what's going on? And I think she probably was just like, you know who I have on the other line? Greg. And I'm just going to text him right up and easy peasy. And then probably like 2 weeks later, they're off to Rome for their coffee date.
Yeah. And obviously, like, the internet is like, probably wasn't your actual, maybe that was your first date, but that probably wasn't your first date. Yeah. And I also just didn't like, and this goes back to that Brittany thing, that Rachel thing that we saw in the finale of their season. This like, like really cold and just, and apparently I don't really remember her from Pilot Pete's season, but apparently she was like that before. And she's like, if it's going well, she'll be like, like a little purring cat. And then the minute she's like, claws out, F you, and then I'm on to someone else. So I don't know if you caught it, Marni, but she said that she's generally only dates men who are unavailable. And Johnny was perfectly unavailable the whole entire time. He was like, I don't know, blah, 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 this and this. And then, and that's what's, she was doing so well. We were like, you can tell she went to therapy and all these things. But of course, she was in a very, like you point out, in an experimental test tube island where everything was so calculated, measured out. And there weren't a lot of other options to screw up. But then they got back in the real world, which is just for a couple weeks and all hell broke loose. And it was sad, to see it all just quickly. As soon as she said, hey, I'm here for you and I want to do this and I'm all about you, then she wasn't interested and she trotted off and found her. Yeah, other guy. I mean, I will say this. I will disagree with you a little bit. I think that the whole time she wasn't really convinced. At the end, when she says, turns out love is not a checklist, it's feelings. You know what? She's like, Kate, she had her damn checklist, right? Because clearly when she throws out at her most subconscious level, I'm out of your league. Same thing as Kate, right? Like, I'm out of your league. I'm better than you. You have no ambition. I can get whoever I want. And it just shows you, like, know who you want if someone says like, I don't think I'm good enough for you, I'm not worthy, like, please let that be a turn on. That should be like, you're really nice. Like, call me after you go to therapy. Because yes, Johnny's making himself emotionally available, but, and I'd love Emily's doctor opinion on this, but like, that's not really emotionally available, because even though you're like letting the person in and you're telling them the truth and you're showing them who they are, if you don't think that you're enough, how can you be emotionally available? Right. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh no, this is, the pail of or bucket of water with like a hole at the bottom. Like, that's Johnny. And as you just are going to have to keep shoveling water in that thing for it to stay full, or else it's going to all drain out. And if he's not able to find a way to kind of plug the hole himself and like see that, hey, I'm great. And clearly he's got obviously some like body image stuff. I mean, there's like some stuff for him to work on, and no woman in the world can fix that for you.
Right.
So I completely agree that it wouldn't have worked regardless. It just is really unfortunate that the way that it didn't work was like the worst way possible.
The worst way possible. But I always say, these dark moments in our lives are either transforming you or preparing you to transform. And as we sort of wrap up this season, I think that there's a lot of these young people, and some of them in their late 30s. This is an opportunity for them to grow, right? And really reflect, and say like, what can I learn and how can I be better? Or to completely ignore it and, just keep doing the same thing they've been doing with the same result. And they really do reflect like the common existence of the search for love and all of the triggers and all of the pains. And so I sort of bless them all, right? Because it's not perfect. We didn't even talk about Brandon and Serene, but they're boring and they're not married.
I love it.
Whatevs. That was boring. Chris, so as we wrap up this season of Bachelor in Paradise,
yes,
final thoughts of advice for our ladies and any gents who are listening.
Beautiful. Final thought on, it was very pointed home in this episode, and we mentioned it before. When you're feeling lost, you don't seek counsel from your single girlfriends, and when you're feeling lost in your relationship, don't seek counsel from your guy friends who want to bang you. Just
yes.
Well. Oh, Marni.
I love that. Dr. Emily, what about you?
I think because it's fresh on my mind from our New York trip. I'm gonna have to refresh or reiterate what we said about, yes, you can have non-negotiables. Yes, you can have like a bit of a checklist, but I like your rule, 5 things. And what Chris was saying too, instead of saying, oh, they have to have X amount of money in their bank account, what's the value there? Because we also have friends who have X amount of money in their bank account and they won't spend it. So, like, if you want, right?
I know those people too. Exactly. Exactly.
Clarify what that really means. And I like that rule, 5 things. That's it.
5 non-negotiables. It's been swell, kids. You can find Chris Gillis at Consultant Chris. If you know any men's that need some dating advice or styling advice, Dr. Emily is in private practice in Los Angeles. She's amazing. And also the stellar girlfriend of Chris. What?
CognitiveBehavioralAssociates.com.
CognitiveBehavioralAssociates.com. If you need therapy, she is your person, clearly. And we're at datingwithdignity.com. You can find me on Instagram. We are doing a live every Thursday, except we did it today because it was Thanksgiving tomorrow. So we have a live check yourself live on Thursdays. Come join us for that. If you have any other questions or comments about this show or Bachelor, please drop it in the comments. You can also find daily dating tips on TikTok at Dating with Dignity. Next week, we're going to talk about Love is Blind. I know it's like a Bachelor drought till late January, but we have a lot of things to continue to discuss. And it's been a long ass season. They just left the beach and we're going to go eat turkey. I hope you have had a amazing holiday. I just know that for all of our listeners, like it's no fun to talk if no one's listening. So we're just so grateful for you and your support and the fact that you shared this show with your friends and that you are part of our amazing community. So lots of love and gratitude to our listeners. And we will see you. We'll see you on the next episode. And in the meantime, life check your damn selves. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Battista, and let's talk soon.